Anime, it's wonderful. It can be beautiful. It can be painful. It can be thought-provoking, frustrating, but most of all, it can be a distraction. And I don't mean in a bad way. Sometimes we need a distraction, something to pull us away from the chaos or weight of real life. Anime, in all its colorful, loud, ridiculous, and sometimes heart-wrenching emotional stories, does that perfectly. It provides a space where we can feel, escape, and process all at the same time. We're going to look at how anime can be a healthy distraction. But there's a common criticism, especially aimed at shonen anime, that it's poorly written, immature, or even mindless, that it's too predictable or hopeful. But I think that's missing the point entirely. And in this video, well, I'm going to tell you why. We're going to look at how anime can be a healthy distraction, not an avoidance, but a meaningful pause. So if you've ever rolled your eyes at protagonist or dismissed a story because it's, well, an anime or even just animated, then watch the rest of this video, because at one point I was guilty of the exact same thing. Life can be overwhelming sometimes. The problems we face feel too big to manage all at once. Whether it's personal grief, stress, loneliness, or simply the weight of the world being too heavy. Those moments can be paralyzing. In times like that, distraction isn't just welcomed. At times it's necessary. Anime offers more than just mindless entertainment. It's an entire medium of emotion, heart, and reflection. At the best of times, anime can teleport us, temporarily removing us from our pain while quietly helping us to understand it. That's not unhealthy escapism. That's a tool for survival. I think it's important to understand the difference between ignoring your problems compared to taking your time to recharge. Sometimes you just need a breather before you tackle what lies ahead of you. Anime gives you that breather, wrapped in beautiful art, soundtracks, and some stories and characters that might just hit your soul. These characters might, despite all odds, keep fighting. Watching someone like Naruto, Luffy, or Deku push forward when everything is against them. That's not just entertainment. To me, it's motivational. Shonen anime gets a lot of flack for being hopeful or unrealistic. But hope is powerful, especially when you're dealing with despair. The familiar beats of a shonen story, the journey, the obstacles, the friendship, the ultimate triumph at the end, can be guided meditation, helping you persevere. And unlike some medias that might lean into cynicism, basically every form of social media, anime and shonen in particular often reminds you that things can get better, that you're allowed to believe in something brighter. Even beyond shonen, slice of life anime can explore complex emotional themes like loss, loneliness, anxiety, identity, and they're all genuinely packed through character-driven narratives. These stories validate your emotions while helping us to make sense of them. And that isn't just universal to anime. That's the purpose of storytelling. And there's a nostalgia factor to it too that helps blend it all together. So many of us grew up with anime like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, or Dragon Ball Z. Or, you know, all the other new gens, because I'm kind of a boomer. Revisiting those shows feels like going home in a way. It's a way to reclaim a piece of your childhood, a version of ourselves, untouched by the harsher parts of life, that familiarly brings comfort. In conclusion of this section, obviously anime isn't just about distraction. It's about connection. Sometimes you connect with a character. Sometimes you connect with a theme. Sometimes with the feeling of being seen and understood, those quiet moments while you're watching someone else's story unfold, you begin to feel a little more ready to keep writing your own story. This is all coming from me from a raw and emotional area right now. Escapism is important. It grants you space to think about what you need to, while also keeping yourself grounded and safe. There's going to be some comments talking about how it isn't that deep, bro, it's just anime. What I'm obviously talking about here is outlying moments where people are just weak and vulnerable, like when they lose a loved one or they lose their job and feel worthless. And if you're going through one of those periods, I recommend picking up something. Just try something. When I lost my cat of 15 years, I watched an anime about a cat and a guy who had a cat as a roommate. It, made me cry multiple times, not because of the anime being good, but because of how it helped me express myself. I don't care if you think that that's invalid, or if it's stupid, or it could be said for any form of medium. Sure, there's 101 other things that can too, but this is just something that has helped me, and I felt I needed to put it into words. One of these shows for me recently ticks all of the boxes I stated before, and that's Dragon Ball Daima. So let's talk about Dragon Ball Daima. I wasn't sure how to feel about it when it was first announced. Like many, I was mourning the loss of Akira Toriyama, a legend gone too soon, my thoughts of which are up here. And for a while, I avoided Daima entirely. I told myself I was waiting for the full series release. I was waiting for the dub release. That's how I watched it when I was a kid, and that's how I want to watch it now. When I finally sat down and watched it, I was blown away. Not by the traditional Dragon Ball-ness of the show, but how right it felt. Dragon Ball Daima felt like Akira Toriyama's heart was poured into it. It wasn't just another sequel or a continuation of something that he never really realistically wanted to make. It was a spiritual return to what made Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball, special in the first place. Adventure, humor, charm, and yes, the classic hopefulness. There's a lot of criticism out there saying that the dub isn't the true experience, the original experience, or its tone is too light. And selfishly, I just have to say I don't care. I grew up with the dub. It's the version I love, and the version that brought me comfort when I needed it most. Not to say that their opinions are invalid. In fact, on a technical level, I'm inclined to agree with the sub most of the time. Can tell in sections a different story. Tone is an incredibly important thing when creating characters and writing a story. So if a dub voice actor doesn't really hit the same tone as was intended, it's not the same as the original work, objectively speaking. Toriyama may not have fully written every episode, but he had more involvement in Daima than essentially anything after Z. He didn't just leave notes, he helped shape the story, and you can feel that. The tone, the humor, the pacing, it's old school Toriyama, through and through. A poetic return to form. Watching Daima felt like reconnecting with an old friend. It was the exact distraction I needed at a time when things in my life were too heavy and hard for me to deal with alone. At least I had something to look forward to every week, something familiar but also fresh. It gave me sanctuary, and it also reminded me of the main theme of this video, that stories can heal. Daima didn't try to be deep or philosophical. It focused on having fun and telling a heartfelt journey of a story. And in doing that, it brought me some peace. It reminded me that even when life feels uncertain, joy can be found in the simplest of places, like an animated kids cartoon of Goku chasing just another fucking Dragon Ball. I personally feel more connected to Daima than basically anything since Z. I wasn't a massive fan of Super. I felt it was all the worst parts of Dragon Ball Z. And I'm happy to say that I'll never forget how Daima made me feel. Not because it's the best show ever made, because it's not, or because it broke new ground, because it didn't, but because in that moment, it worked. And that's all that realistically matters.